Life insurance planning is one of the most polarizing financial planning topics in the entire industry. Well, today, what we're going to break down is how to determine how much life insurance you need. If we haven't had a chance to meet, my name's Luke Turner. I am the co-founder of Moment Private Wealth. We help athletes and entrepreneurs make smarter financial decisions. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel below. We're going to be putting out more and more content just like this. Let's dive into today's topic on life insurance. So as I mentioned, life insurance is one of these polarizing topics, and it can be really confusing to understand how much life insurance do I need. So we're going to walk through a few simple steps that you can calculate on your own in order to know how much life insurance you need. So number one thing that we need to be looking at is, what does it cost to be you? And when I say this needs to be, what is your monthly budget to continue living the lifestyle that you're living today? So let's take into account things like our mortgage payment, potentially car payments. What does it cost for us for food, for groceries, all the different things in our life? Effectively, your monthly spending number. Okay, so if we look at that on a monthly basis, then we're going to multiply that by 12. And typically, then we're going to take this number and multiply it by 10. Typically, I want to make sure that there's about 10 years of runway that this life insurance is going to cover. So if we just do some basic math here, let's say you're spending $10,000 a month, that's $120,000 a year. And if we multiply that 120,000 times 10, that is $1.2 million in insurance just for that component. Okay. And now the next thing that we're going to look at here are going to be education costs, potentially today or in the future. So if you have children, that's going to be something that most people want to think about. How are we going to pay for college if my income is no longer here? And one of the ways that we like to do that is by taking that into account whenever we're looking at insurance coverages. So typically we would then run a college education analysis, come up with our total amount that we're expecting it to cost. Let's say that's another $200,000, and we would add that now on to our 1.2 million. The next piece that we're going to look at are going to be potential debts or liabilities that we have. Most people want to plan for paying off any debts that they have if something prematurely happens to them and they can no longer provide for their family. So an example here would be, let's say we own $1 million house. We have $600,000 in debt on that house. We typically want to then add that debt to our running total that we have going here. So we have our 1.2 million, we have our $200,000 for education costs, and now we have $600,000 to pay off any debts or liabilities. Okay, so that's now brought us to a grand total of $2 million that we need to be making sure we're accounting for when it comes to life insurance. Now what we want to do is we actually want to add something back. And these are when we look at current portfolio or current assets. Okay, so we need to now look at how much we have actually saved up, and we can now subtract this out. So let's assume right now that you have a $500,000 portfolio. So typically what we would do now is look at our $2 million, and now we would subtract $500,000 because we already have $500,000 saved up. And that would leave us our grand total that we need to cover when it comes to life insurance. So in this case, that example I just walked through, we would need about $1.5 million of life insurance if something were to happen to us today. Now, what are some of the other components that we need to be thinking about whenever we're doing life insurance planning? Okay. One thing that I would like people to think about is what are these costs today, but then also what are we expecting these costs to look like in the future? And making sure that we understand that life is not a one size fits all. So example here would be, one thing that we talk a lot about is if somebody has, say, one child, but they want to have a family of 4, and they're planning on having more kids, and they're expecting their cost of living to continue to go up. One thing that we like to do is protect our insurability, okay? Because if we are insurable today, we might not be insurable 2, 3, 4 years down the road. So we're planning on having 2, 3, 4 kids, and we have a lot of confidence that that's probably going to happen, and our costs are going to go up. Maybe instead of 1.5 million, we buy $3 million worth of life insurance. And I think this is an important component to point out as it relates to anything with financial planning, in that this is not a one size fits all. There's a component of it that's a science, but it's mostly an art. And we need to combine those two things together whenever we're coming up with what the right number is from a life insurance perspective. So now that we've talked about how to calculate how much life insurance you need, let's real briefly talk about what is the most common type of life insurance we see get purchased to protect families. Typically, the most common life insurance coverage that we see is term insurance. Okay, there's a lot of different chassis out there as it relates to insurance. We're actually going to be making another video on all the different types of insurance policies, but typically term insurance is what you should be looking for. Term insurance is a low-cost way for you to get that coverage in place. Again, it's not right for every single person, but that is the first place that I would look. If you enjoyed this video on life insurance planning and how to calculate how much life insurance coverage you need, you might also enjoy the video that's posted below, which talks about how much car you can afford. Just like in this video, I break down a real life scenario that you can implement on your own to determine if you can afford your dream car. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe below. We are growing and we're going to be putting out more and more content just like this that you're not going to want to miss.